Showtime. Hey everyone, how's it going? It is I, the real Randy Chavez, with my co-host Crypto Rain.
What's
Today
up,
is going to
everyone?
be sorry, my fault. Today is going to be very different. We're going to have a bull versus bear match, fudder versus non-fudder, and I'm going to take the place of the fudder. And I know that whenever you say that word, it gets a taste in your mouth of people that are illogical, emotional, but I promise tonight the arguments will be well thought out, eloquent, concise, and I should have probably put my name as different for this. I'm going to take the name of someone named Jake Hardy because I always wanted to be a Hardy boy when I was growing up. How about you, Rain? Do you want to have an alter ego for this?
Nope.
Okay. Before we get started, everyone say hello to Dashy. Hello, Dashy. Still gonna find a good
Yo,
place.
Dashy. I like Dashy's new location.
Yeah, very nice. Very, very suave. All right, Rain. This is going to come down to the past, the future, the present, monetary value, ROI. It's going to be a very rough night for you. To which would you like to start first?
I think it's impossible for it to be a rough night for me making the case for OMI because at the end of the day, I just play probabilities. I think the probabilities are stacked massively in my favor.
Well, let's start there. Now, obviously, you are a incredibly successful investor yourself, but it's not because you're right 100% of the time. In fact, you've said yourself on this stream that the last time in the bear market, all the stuff that you had picked, you were only right 30% of the time.
35.
Can you tell us why that is? 35. Can you tell us why this time is any different?
Well, a couple things. That was my first bear market investing for the bull market. So I was trying to figure out where the best efficiencies was. And unfortunately, there was no YouTube channel that focused on this stuff. I would have loved to leverage off of somebody else's understanding and just like learn from them. But there wasn't that. So I had to learn the hard way. So that bear market, I invested in things like meme coins just to find out the probabilities were really bad. I invested in some riskier projects just to find out the probabilities were really bad. And so if you really think about what you are in the crypto space as a quote unquote crypto investor, you're really just an early stage business investor in blockchain companies. So once you really understand that, you look at it a little bit different because you're like, okay, I want to analyze businesses that have a good business model, that have a token associated with them, and I'm investing in those. And so I've narrowed down my focus. I cut out meme coins because I realized the probabilities were poor on there. Some of the other high risk stuff that had a greater chance to go really, really high, but also had a much greater chance to go to zero, I removed that completely. And I focused on projects that have come out between 3 to about 6 years in the past and buying them when they're actually savaged. And the probabilities on those companies, looking back at how my portfolio did last time, most of those succeeded. That was where most of my money was made. And so this time moving forward, like, I don't know what my success rate is going to be, but it's going to be far higher than the 35% success rate.
But as of right now, still an unknown, correct?
Absolutely.
All right, since we brought up the past, let's go to it. Wind the clocks back to the last bear market. Now, VeVe has had the experience, which whether you consider losing, losses, or anything, experience, I would consider experience. They've been through a bear market. That's good for them. They've made money. That's good for them. But how much of that was because of timing and luck, and how much of that was from genuine creativity and ingenuity?
Probably 70% timing and luck and 30% ingenuity. I'd rather be lucky than good every day of the week, but their timing was epic. They almost died last bear market, right? They almost didn't make it. They launched their app, and probably, I don't know what their exact revenue situation was, but if the tidal wave of money coming in the crypto space hadn't happened when it happened, they might not have made it. And David's kind of alluded to that. And he's like, I would have called this a 0% chance. And he's probably talking about that bear market that was hard, they got enough momentum to really gain traction. And yeah, so I would say probably 70% of that was luck.
Now, it is a well-known fact that generally some of these licenses, whether you're VeVe or other crypto companies or other digital collectibles platforms, they like to have a little something up front. Some people have like Disney, they get their 6% on every single sale in the secondary market, but some licenses require a little bit of cash, which they were flush with in 2021 and parts of 2022. But with that decreasing revenue, with that decreasing monthly active users, and their insistence on growing during a bear market, hiring up to 100 people, possibly more, how long do you think that can go on for with the decreasing revenues?
Well, the revenues are probably decreasing just because we're actually in the bull market, but it feels like if you're in the altcoin or digital collectible space, it still feels like the bear market because the digital collectibles narrative hasn't hit. So it doesn't matter that technically we're in the bull market. I mean, it matters from an overall timing perspective, but you won't feel that it matters because you haven't seen any changes in either the OMI price or the VeVe collectibles price to the upside, which is what everyone waits for. But it's kind of like the wave isn't here yet. The wave isn't here yet. But you can look and see the wave is coming. Holy shit. Cool. But some people don't look over and see the wave is coming. All they can focus on is right here. The wave isn't here yet. And I'm so frustrated. Cool. Hey, yeah, look over there. Well, what does Bitcoin have to do with this? Well, Bitcoin always precedes the greater altcoin run, which bleeds into other narratives. And Bitcoin is gearing up for a massive run again. So that wave is coming, and that wave is going to bring our wave that we're waiting for.
There has been some good things happening in crypto lately. Obviously, ETFs getting in, and obviously you have with that coming the ETF money. We have already at times since that surpassed the last price of Bitcoin for the all-time highs. I don't believe we've done that with Ethereum or much other altcoins as of yet. But isn't there a chance that some of this might not matter? If there's a chance that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz become the new administration and they dig their heels in on being anti-crypto, as the Democratic Party has persisted in being so far. If that happens, and we've seen before that we have not gone any U.S. exchanges, we have not gone on any exchanges that would need U.S. approval. Is it possible that if they get elected that we will not get on any new exchanges for at least the next 4 years?
They're on an exchange that matters, which is Base, right? So you can swap it on Base or on Uniswap. And it's like, well, that's not a big exchange. So at the end of the day, all these meme coins that are launching, where that's where the narrative has been, they're not usually on Coinbase either. They're on a DEX swap. And so people have access to them because of a DEX. The real problem is the digital collectibles narrative hasn't hit yet. And when it does, it won't matter if they're not on Coinbase yet. Now, Coinbase or some of the other exchanges could augment it, especially with US access exchanges. That'll make a big deal. But people in the US have access to Uniswap. And so the bigger question is, can Kamala Harris and Tim Walz stop crypto from running this bull run? I don't think they can. They can mute the run, but they can't stop it.
Thank you for that answer. Moving on to, again, the last bear market. When this started, it was about 2018. Now, granted, this has probably been moving since 2017, getting the ideas together, getting the base together. But it's been the greater part of a decade. Now, David and Dan have been successful in pretty much everything they've done before, and they have been successful here. But they have never been in charge of 100 to 200 people. Maybe they were in charge of maybe a dozen or so people. Do you think that moving forward, because given that they've been at this for, again, the greater part of a decade, that David might get tired and might sell? Or he might go on and just sell at least part of the company, get a new CEO? What are the dangers of that?
Well, he could always bring somebody in to be CEO, and he could just be head of partnerships, which he is incredible. Nobody is better at than him. So if he doesn't want to manage that, like, they could hire that. I don't know Dan super well, because some people have skill sets for early stage business, but don't know how to run the mid range in the later stages. But they're doing well enough that when the bull market comes again, they'll be able to hire that position if they don't want to do that. That way you can, I do believe strongly in operating within what you're good at. And I don't know that anybody better in the world than David exists for the partnerships and getting these agreements. He's just so trustable. He's so likable. He's been able to get intellectual property deals out there that most of the other competitors would die for. They would cut off their left and right leg for. And yet David's been able to do it with favorable agreements for VeVe. And so like, I think that's his specialty. And I don't think for him that's work. I think that's what he loves to do. So he's operating within his zen, what he's good at. And that's one of the reasons I really like VeVe and OMI for an investment is I'm investing in, you know, him essentially, or not directly in him, but in the company that he's creating or the token associated with the company that he's creating. And I don't see him working. I see him living out his life's dream.
Speaking of live stream, it's one thing to get tired and to sell. I mean, we've seen Spider-Man go and give up his costume because things got hard. But what about for money? I mean, again, was likely a millionaire before this company had started, and maybe even had in several millions of dollars. But tens or hundreds of millions of dollars was likely not something that he had access to. Now he does. What is to stop him to going and making himself a centimillionaire, or even close to a billionaire if he decides to go and build this up a little bit? And so the company that he wants to sell to wants to get rid of the OMI token.
That is absolutely a risk in the crypto space. Realize when you have a token associated with a project, what do you really own? It's not very tangible what you own. If they tie it to massive, massive use case, well, then the SEC wants to say, that's a security. You didn't register as a security. We're finding you all this money and blah, 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 blah. And so the use case is somewhat arbitrary. It's risky. And say they were to sell 50% to Disney. First thing Disney would probably want to do is like cut out the OMI token. Well, that would be bad for me, right? I've been investing in more OMI. So that's a risk. Do I think David would do that? No, because though it would make him rich, he would then be like, well, I'm effing over all these people. Second, he's one of the largest OMI holders out there too. So he would be decreasing the value of his own tokens. But secondly, I think more importantly for what I see in him is he really does love the community. And he would be effing over the community. I don't think he would take that bet unless I have him completely wrong. And I'm pretty sure I don't think he would take that. That if he made any kind of deal, it would be a deal that like, yeah, you've got to keep OMI and add some value there. But I don't see him taking a big deal. Like he sells out his majority share until like way down the road, because like I said, he's not working. He's living out his life's dream. That's when somebody's putting in the kind of hours that he does and he's just got this endless energy. That's because for them, it's not work. It's him creating his passion. And so when somebody's creating their passion, it's hard to buy them out of that and be like, we're going to give you $1 million. And it's like, yeah, but what would I do? I mean, this is still what I'd want to do. So thank you, but no, thank you, because I want to do this more than I want to be on a beach somewhere.
Fair point. I also love working, especially at my trade. Your trade has been crypto investing, and again, you are very successful at it. So this is a question more directed at you, other than the company, but there is a connection. You have constantly said that you are continuously dollar cost averaging on the OMI token because these prices are so juicy. Now, the last bull market, the NFTs did not run until the very end, late 2021, early 2022. And if the crypto market and NFTs, they rhyme, and it goes in every 4 years, wouldn't that mean we are 12 to 15 months away from the next time NFTs run, if this is the same? And if so, why are you dollar cost averaging right now as opposed to 9 months from now when it's closer to that bull market?
So one of the hard things to predict is when certain narratives are going to run. Now, I wish I had a magic crystal ball and I could just tell, and in what order they were going to run. That would be perfect, because then I just throw 100% into the first narrative that is going to run, and then I would leverage that in the second, and then the third, and you would make way more money. But you just don't know. They don't run in the same sequence. They don't run in the same pattern they ran last time. Some of it you have no control over. Like October last year, we all of a sudden had a blockchain gaming run. Why? Because all of a sudden Alex Becker came back from not making any crypto videos to making a crypto video on why blockchain gaming is going to take over the world. And then other creators like, oh yeah, let's go blockchain gaming, which created green candles, which then everybody in the crypto space covered it, which created bigger green candles. And blockchain gaming had a mini run in the bear market. Who could have predicted that? I don't know, maybe Alex Becker, but I don't think he could have completely predicted that would create this whole wave. So it's not predictable. So what I do is I invest in the different narratives that I think have a strong chance to do extremely well in the coming bull market, and I diversify. Then if one runs ahead of other things, then I take profits on that, roll that into something else that's still cheap that I'm interested in. So I wish I knew, but it's probably not going to play out the same way it did last time. I don't want to take that bet of like, oh yeah, I'm just going to wait and roll everything into OMI later. Cool, it could play out that way. I just don't know.
Fantastic. Now, the good numbers that we've seen that at least are better than the competition is that VeVe currently has about 14 or 15,000 monthly active users. But that doesn't mean those monthly active users are always buying. Many of them are likely selling. Now, we don't know exactly what numbers, what percentages are buying or selling, but it is clear that 14 to 16,000 people are not actively buying. We see that in the drops. They are not selling out like they used to. Is that of a major concern? And if so, how does VeVe rectify it?
Well, if that continued over the next 3 years, that'd be a massive concern. They'd be on their way to death. Crypto runs in 4-year cycles. And so what's amazing is how many sales they've still been doing so long into the bear market and early bull market. But even though it's the early bull market, really only Bitcoin, meme coins, and some AI stuff has really run. And so the digital collectibles narrative hasn't run at all. So within that space, it still feels like absolutely the bear market. And so you do see a fall off continuing to happen as more and more people wash out, more and more people lose faith. Recency bias really kicks in. Recency bias is the assumption that what has been happening is exactly what's going to continue to happen, which is why most people miss out on buying the lows, because they're like, no, it'll never turn around. It's dead. Look at the charts in every crypto project that's done good, and you'll look that there was a really, really low point in that chart. And you'll look at that and be like, yeah, but I'm sure everyone knew it was going to turn around. No, the sentiment was exactly what you're feeling with OMI right now. Exactly. No different. Oh yeah, no, it's totally different. Cool. What you're telling me is you don't have experience in this, and you're making assumptions that it felt different, but it didn't, because that's what creates the lows, is people capitulating and giving up because they're done. The leadership of this project sucks, or it's never going to get fixed, or there's too many problems and it's unforgivable and I'm out. That's called capitulation. That's exactly the name for it. What are we seeing in OMI and some people with VeVe? Capitulation. Cool. Let's call it what it is, capitulation. People want it who are capitulating. They don't want to call it capitulation because they want to think this time it's different. Cool. You think this time is different. Fantastic. We're going to see how it plays out. And the chances are you're massively wrong.
There is things that VeVe has been wrong on before. They've gotten some marketing from Blackpink. They mess, again, to their credit, they are trying many things to go in and mess with the mint sizes to make them super scarce, which pisses off a lot of collectors, let's say, of the Marvel Mighties, who are people that have collected every one up until the Spider-Man Noir were not able to get it because it's so expensive, was next to impossible to get on the drop. The same thing with the Tokidokis and the Captain Stormy. Now, again, they are trying in order to go in and get more money to their bottom line, which is what they should do. But again, next to nothing is working. How do they go and turn the tables and get new people on board?
Getting new people on board is difficult. It's really the crypto bull run that does that. And it creates an awareness in the blockchain space and this idea of digital collectibles. And it does it all on its own. So yes, VeVe could like borrow $50 million and launch some campaigns and try to make something happen. They don't need to, because it's going to happen anyway. So their best bet is to keep their cash flow situation good so that they can afford to pay their employees and everything and continue doing what they're doing and getting intellectual property, and let that wave come to them, because it's coming. Cool. They didn't have to go out and spend millions of dollars in marketing to have 2021 go well for them. The crypto space taking off brought the wave to them. They just rode it. That's going to happen again.
There is a couple of people that say that they should rename the token, because VeVe and OMI, you won't immediately know that they're connected just because of the fact that they are separate names. They are from separate companies. Should there be a little bit more of a fusion between the two? Not necessarily Disney, but just bringing up that point.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, there's rumors going around that's like, oh, Disney may have bought some of Ecomi. If they did, I don't know what those details look like or what that really looks like. So it's like, cool, how much? I'm curious to know. I don't know. We'll see by watching their financial disclosures, like what comes out, and see if we can figure out what happened. But even if they bought a stake in it, why would you rename it into the Disney token? Disney probably wouldn't go for that. And I don't know that Ecomi VeVe would go for that. So I don't know that creates a win for either side.
For their sake, I hope they did not, because if you go on to the New Zealand office.government.nz, you can go and take a look at the shareholder list and the breakdown of who actually owns Orbis, or the Ecomi and VeVe companies.
Oh,
now,
nice.
Obviously, most of it is David Yu having 2,041,471 shares, and Dan Crothers in second place for 927,320 shares. But if you go down to the number 4 holder, it is Alfred R. Kahn. Alfred R. Kahn is getting up there in age. I love him. He's like the man. Anyway, he's getting up there in age and has several other companies that he's running. Now, if I'm him and I'm looking at my investment doing nothing but going down, and I see another company, again, perhaps Disney, perhaps Tesla, perhaps Microsoft, Google, anyone in FANG, go in and say, we know exactly what to do with this company, and we're willing to buy out your shares 2-to-1. Like, they will offer him twice what they are worth right now. And they can go down the list, down to John Keltz, to Adwani Al-Mashani, Yu Cheng, et cetera, down the shareholder list and do that. And then they could, if they wanted to, go in and vote out David Yu, make it their own company, do that. What would be your advice to David, or your advice to Dan, or anyone to prevent such a thing from happening?
Well, usually they would get some kind of indication that those calls were being made. Like if Al Kahn got a call from that, he'd probably call David Yu next and be like, hey, just so you're aware, you know, and that's called a hostile takeover. And those happen. So it would be a huge mistake if somebody's trying to lose a bunch of money to take it over and kick David Yu out of the lead position. David Yu is what's making this special. So that would be like, I don't know, like a massive loss for whoever went down that road.
Agreed. I love your answer to that. I just thought it was a fun question. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Read up one of Wes's comments, says Dave Ramsey. Oh, nope, that was the wrong one. So what do you say in response to someone like Dave Ramsey in regard to saying crypto is a scam? Now, obviously, we know that crypto is not a scam, but generally, when you talk about crypto, most of them are meme coins, rug pulls, and most of them do go and they do scam people. Like the other day, you had McDonald's, their Twitter got hacked, and they had whoever hacked them decided to pump a Grimace coin. People lost several $100,000 out of that. It's awesome to watch. Anyway,
I do remember the later 90s, right? Mid 90s through later 90s. And there was this new thing coming out. And a lot of the existing financial infrastructure was very skeptical on it. And there was this new thing called the internet. And guess what? There were scams on the internet, and there was bad actors and porn and drugs being trafficked over the internet. And it was a scam. Okay, so did it stop the technology from being used for good to change the whole world? No, it did not. So does Dave Ramsey get crypto? F no. We can see that in his answer. So cool. Listen to Dave Ramsey and miss out on the next evolution of what the internet can do, which blockchain is unlocking, because Dave Ramsey doesn't get it. So that's okay. Just follow Dave Ramsey's things of pay off your credit cards and then cut them up and go into no debt. And eventually you will eke out a meager living. Congratulations. Or you can take risks in your life and learn how to take smart risks in your life, smart financial investment risks in an area that is allowing the internet to do things it could not do before. Now, are there scams in the crypto space? Hell yes, so many. This is effing shark infested waters. And there are so many sharks in this water. They're looking to scam you out of money. Like every one of my videos, all these comments come up or like, oh, Versidium is the big thing. Like, I don't even know what Versidium is, but I promise you it is a scam. And it's like, oh, the ICO hasn't sold out yet. Get it? It's like, no, that or the pre-sale, like it's 100% a scam. And so like there are people in North Korea, there are other people out of India and other places that are 100% looking to scam you and take your money and using crypto as space. Why? Because there is so much treasure on the ocean floor there. That's why all the sharks are here, because this is where all the people are coming to get that treasure. But yeah, those sharks, they will take you out if they can. And there's a lot of that. So it's like some people are like, oh my gosh, there are sharks in those waters. I'm not going to go there. Cool. That's up to you. I think a smarter answer is to learn how to mitigate those risks so that you can make smart investments in a space that's stacked. Like, where else can you make a investment that, like, from right now, we've gone through a long bear market and it's starting to turn around, go into the bigger bull market. And so you have upside potential of 50x your money on some things, or 100x your money on things, or if it doesn't go very well, 20x on your money. And there's, say, an 80% chance that it's going to survive into that bull market and get at least a 10 or 20 or 50x, but a 20% chance it all goes to zero. Can you walk into a casino on earth and get those kind of odds? Nothing has those kind of odds. So that's why I'm here. Now, in order to take those kind of strategic bets, you have to learn that, first of all, you stay away from meme coins. Second of all, you stay away from Versidium or whatever it is that gets shilled on the comments on every single one of my videos. And you got to stay away from like all the crap out there that is 100% a scam. So your money doesn't go into that. And so that you can take bets where the odds are stacked in your favor and then wait to see how it plays out. Because remember, 8% chance of winning means 20% chance of loss. And that's just part of the game, because you're just early stage business investing here. Like, there's no guarantees. You're just trying to use research to help you make smart decisions to figure out when the odds are stacked way for you rather than against you.
Speaking of odds and statistics, isn't it true that most tokens, after seeing their first bull market, do not ever reach all-time highs in their second bull market?
It is also true that most crypto tokens are scams or projects that are never going to do well at all. So it's not incorrect to make that statement. But if you use that as a general and say, well, that's what always happens, you're wrong. That is not what always happens. Specifically, it's not what always happens in something that is within a narrative that is massively going to take over the collectibles space. And they don't see the bigger picture that digital collectibles is going to be one of the biggest narratives in crypto. And who is the number one player in the digital collectible space? VeVe. What is a token associated with it? OMI. So a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, the second bull market, most tokens don't perform as well. And it's like, right, because most tokens, their actual business model never gets off the ground and they're on their way to fading into oblivion. So they're correct in that statement that most tokens, but they don't know enough to identify and say, well, which ones aren't fading into, going, which ones do go higher? Well, the ones where they're not fading into oblivion, the ones where actually they're making tons of sales and they're the main player in a narrative that is going to go huge from here. And in that case, it almost never does worse than the previous time. but they just don't know what they don't know, right? They're new and they're figuring out this space, and they don't have the luxury of having like 18 years investment cycle experience prior to crypto and then 7 years in crypto. And also I'm good at pattern recognition. That's what I'm exceptional at. So I just look at the patterns. I'm like, what are the odds? And so they're not wrong on those statistics, but realize that statistics can lead you to correct or completely incorrect conclusions if you're not looking deeper at the variables behind it and saying, oh, this variable is what makes a difference on who does better the second time. And Ecomi falls squarely within this variable. And so the chances that it does better this next time are really quite high, versus most projects do worse their second cycle. That's true, because most projects are on their way to dying their second cycle.
Now, as far as all-time highs are concerned, last time we got up to about 1.3 cents. But this time we are now fully diluted. We have billions of more tokens in the circulating supply. Now, granted, we are technically deflationary right now. There's little bits of OMI being burnt every day with OMI to NFT beta. But wouldn't it be much harder to reach 1.3 cents now, given that there are billions, if not tens of billions, more tokens in circulating supply?
No, because you'll have way more population coming into crypto this cycle.
How many of those people are technologically adept enough to use Uniswap? Because we are not on exchanges that Americans can use.
How many exchanges was OMI on that Americans could use last cycle? Not many. And these people that didn't know hardly anything about crypto were coming in, figuring out the process to buy OMI and buying it. Why? Because they're like, this VeVe app is cool and OMI's going up. And so all that has to happen is green candles. And then people will figure out how to buy it and buy it. So even if it's not on anything additional to now, they will figure it out when the narrative hits.
Speaking of narrative, the metaverse is likely to be one narrative that hits this cycle. Earth 2, they tend to have videos of their metaverse, which may or may not come out in time, but they have videos every single month. VeVe's been talking about their metaverse for about 3 years, and we have not seen any trailers whatsoever. No gameplay, nothing of the engine. Maybe a picture gets leaked every now and then. Why the silence?
I'm not sure. I think their scope is expanded from what their scope was, which is why all of a sudden they went dead silent on it. It may have to do with some partnerships that haven't been announced, because they were way more transparent on it and they backed off from that tremendously. So then when behavior changes, it's because something came up. What came up, I can only guess. I don't know, but there's been rumors of like partnerships and other things. And it's like, well, then that would make sense if the scope increased because of partnerships and other things. And those partnerships would probably, well, that's one thing that explains it. That's my best guess, but I don't know that that's accurate. I do know that transparency from what there used to be on it has massively decreased. And the scope of what they were talking about before, if they had kept the scope the same, it would probably be able to be out right now, because they were significantly close 2 years ago to what the promises were that it was going to be, which was kind of an expanded version of your showroom, to like a little bit of a world and stuff. So my guess is the scope has greatly increased and there's probably some partnerships involved, but I have no facts to back that up. That's just, if you watch behavior will tell you what the real story is. That's what the behavior that best adds up to me with, but maybe there's some other explanation that makes the behavior make sense, and I just don't know what that explanation is.
Trust me, Vils, I wish I could get it for 00043, but unfortunately, where Americans can buy it over on Uniswap, it is 00045. If it was 43, I'd be buying right now. But speaking of OMI and patterns, you had on Paul from Definity, I think it was last week. You have him on all the time. He's a great person, very intelligent. He's likely, as you'd say, probably one of the best at what he does, which is reading charts, correct?
Yeah.
Now,
Price
when he was reading the
analysis.
chart last week on your stream, he had actually said to wait because he is not convinced that we are out of this downtrend.
Yeah. So he waits till it's confirmed. So he doesn't ever try to buy the bottom. Now, he has some advantages most crypto investors don't have, and that he can trade any one of the markets out there across 10 million different markets. And so he just specifically cherry picked for when the charts confirm something is turned around, and then he goes in for a shorter period of time. So if he waits till the trend is confirmed, he ends up making a 3x, he's like super happy. For me, I like the bigger gains, and it does mean that I have to have my money locked up for longer periods of time and I use fundamental research. So fundamentally, he doesn't know what's going on with OMI. He doesn't pay attention fundamentally to almost anything. Like, he just straightly trades off the charts when the charts are showing the confirmation that the trend is turned around. He just waits to that point. And at some point, the charts will show that the price has turned around. And that's the point that he would be entering and buying OMI, which that point is not yet. So we have different buy points. Now, it's not my way is right and his way is wrong, or his way is right and mine is wrong. We just have different overall goals. He can trade any market out there. He doesn't need to be in crypto. And so he can just wait till any one of the charts he's looking at, and then he can take a 3x gain on that. And then he can roll that in. Oh, OMI's now showing that it's broken out and it's now in an uptrend, and he can throw some money in that, take a 3 or 5x gain on that, and then he's happy, and then he can roll it into something else. And that works really well for what he does and within his discipline that he does. I have a different thing that I trade the 4-year cycle in crypto, and I buy the bear market and I dollar cost average in the bear market, and then I dollar cost out in the bull market. And the gains over a 4-year period are phenomenal. I don't know any traders that trade regularly that make those kind of gains over a 4-year period. So I'm really happy with what's going on with crypto and my methodology. But Paul's methodology isn't wrong. And for price analysis, like, he's incredible. Like, he's just so cool, and he's so good at what he does.
I love Paul. I hope to get him on one day. Moving on. You said before, and I don't know where this rumor came from, that there were rumors that maybe Disney, I mean, we've been getting this for years. Disney's buying VeVe, Facebook's buying VeVe, Apple's buying VeVe. But you said there's rumors that they might buy part of it. Now, Disney has had other, let's call it, brushes with digital collectibles. They've done it with Cryptoys, licensed out their stuff. They've done it with Disney Pinnacle, licensing out their stuff. And they've obviously done it with VeVe. VeVe has been the most successful up to this point. We don't know what the future holds. But there are many times where companies will acquire parts or wholes of another company specifically just to shelve them. Now that Disney has gone on and know what works and doesn't work from all these different things, they have all their patents for the NFTs that they need. They have a ton of revenue, almost unlimited amounts of money. What is to stop them from buying so much of VeVe just to shelve them, just so they can open up their own digital collectibles platform?
So VeVe has proved that there's money in the model. There is a risk that that could happen. The amount of money it would take for them to do that. So you know what boards of directors and CEOs of company hate? Getting fired. They hate getting fired. And when they take a risky decision like that, if it goes poorly for them, they get fired. So they usually don't take those kind of risks. Now, sometimes an owner of a company directly would take that kind of risk, but most owners of a company that owns the entire company, they don't have enough funds to do something like that. So usually CEOs and boards of directors play it safe, and that would not be a playing it safe move. A playing it safe move would be, gosh, let's find a way to partner with these guys or invest in something. That way, if it goes well, great. And if it doesn't, well, it's just one of our many portfolio things. But to go huge and buy enough VeVe to shelve it to then create their own thing is a massive risk that if it goes poorly, they could lose their job over, and they're not likely to take that kind of risk.
So obviously, VeVe was not too late to the party last time. They were, again, in that perfect position with a heavy amount of luck. But they might have been a little too early, which is just as bad, if not worse, at being late. We've seen Recur go under. We have seen DraftKings go under. We've seen Immutable X close up their market shop, which is not good for Hero because that's the only place they can get secondary sales. So they might go under. If this trend of companies going under does not stop anytime soon, how long do you think before VeVe is next on the chopping block?
I don't know what their cash flow situation is like. However, they do have the ability to raise equity quite well that would float them for years and years more. But I don't know what their cash flow situation looks like, what are their incoming revenues versus their operational costs. So that's their cash burn rate versus the money that they take in. And I don't know what those numbers are. I do know that in general, they're better than almost all the crypto projects out there, because almost all the crypto projects out there don't even have hardly any incoming revenues, if any at all. So all they have is cash burn rate, and they're hoping for the crypto market to take off, where they can then sell some of their team tokens, their treasury tokens, to then have more money to use, while they hope to then get to a place where they can generate some kind of revenues. So VeVe's in a much stronger place than most of the crypto projects out there, because they do have incoming revenues. They have sales. They have a community that backs them. Although over time in a bear market, community falls off, right? So the number of new people coming in is much less than the people that go out over time. And so if we continue in a bear market for 10 years, there would be nothing left. VeVe would be a shell and they'd be dead. But there's no reason to believe that this bear market will continue for 10 years. In fact, there's lots of reasons to believe that this next year is going to go massively the other direction, which will bring a whole new wave of collectors, fresh blood in. Oh my gosh, digital collectibles are the way of the future. Why didn't I see this before, et cetera, et cetera.
Now, I know that there's different people that enjoy different versions of the same character. VeVe has gone on and they've taken away some of that because people kept calling it crash grab, which again was good that VeVe got rid of the ones like Electra, the same character in 5 different poses. But they did do something similar. Coming out on Sunday, we are going to have our, I think, 3rd appearance of Wolverine. We have, which again is the same character, just a slightly different version of it. Do you think that this is something that fans actually want, or this is just a potential, hey, he's a popular character, let's milk the community for all they're worth?
I think the licensor wants it, right? So I think Disney wants it. And it's related to, notice the timing of this. Deadpool and Wolverine are out, right? So it's like, just like they like to release the toys at the same time as they're releasing the movie. They're releasing, because toys are just physical collectibles / toys. These are digital collectibles. And so they're just trying to coincide it with the release of the movie and figure out that kind of timing. And, you know, so Wolverine in this one showed up with like the yellow suit and stuff. So they have some tie-ins there, and they're just trying things and figuring it out. So like one of the things, people look back on all the mistakes that VeVe made, and they're like, oh, they made this mistake and they made this mistake and made this mistake. When I went to business school years ago, they're like, hopefully you get lucky enough that you survive the mistakes, that none of them cripple your great business before it gets off the ground, because that is very much a risk, because you're going to make mistakes. And hopefully none of those mistakes are big enough that they destroy your business. And the truth is, none of their mistakes have been big enough to destroy their business. And every business makes mistakes, because sometimes you're just trying things that you don't know what's going to work. So when they're in that stage of trying things, and then they'll take the data back and be like, you know what? Really pissed off all our collectors because we released 3 Wolverine collectibles within a 3-month period, and like that saturated it and pissed a bunch of people off. Let's not do that again. Or they're like, you know what? They still sold really well. That worked great. Coinciding with the movie worked awesome. Let's do that again. So when they're dumb is they're not watching the data, see what the data shows them about how it was really received. That would be dumb. I don't think they're dumb. I think they're watching those sales saying, as they try different things and saying, how is this going?
Good call. One thing that the team has been criticized a lot on is communication. One of the things that I think they should have gotten ahead out but didn't was fees. And I'm not talking about the Apple or Google fees. I'm talking about a conversion fee of buying gems from the web app. They slid it underneath us. Now, when you buy gems from the web app, it is not 1-to-1. You do have to pay a fee. It is very small, like 1%, but it is something that they should have communicated. when will they get better at communication? When will they finally tell us, the people, what they're going to do so that we're not blindsided?
3 years from now.
Why 3 years?
I don't know. They're not there yet. So, and I don't think it'll happen next year, but maybe by 3 years from now, like by some, and they will have a person whose entire job it is to try to keep the community updated of things in advance like that. But probably 3 years is my best guess.
Very good.
I don't think it's this year, and I don't think it's next year. Maybe 3 years.
I feel like I'm out of FUD questions. I feel like we covered it all. Do you want to switch roles and reverse?
Well, so we can address what the bigger concerns are, right? So the bigger concerns is for the past 3 years, the token's been going down, which creates a fear like, oh my gosh, I want to believe in this company. I'm just scared. And that's legitimate to feel that way, especially if you're new to cycle investing. So every investment asset class has a cycle, which is actually quite a beautiful thing, because if you then understand the cycle, what the years are, then you can do a better job at buying the bottoms, and you can ride it up to much higher heights, because the key to making money in investing is buying low and then selling high. But you make your money on the buy. And so many people buy high hoping to sell higher, and it doesn't work out very well for them. So you have to buy low, but buying low is scary, because guess what is also happening when the price is really low? Sentiment is really, really low. And so if you need confirmation from everyone else that you're buying it well, guess what everyone else is going to tell you? Almost everyone else is going to tell you, oh my gosh, you're stupid. Oh my gosh, you're delusional. The price is so low. You're just an idiot. It's been going down for 3 years. Don't you realize they're on their way to dying? No, that's what buying low is. And it feels, notice I use the word feels. It feels like it will never turn around. Cool. That's exactly what it feels like every time those charts went really low on any investment in the history. Is it felt like it would never turn around, and then it did. Cool. So like, I don't know, I've been doing this for 25 years. Love it when people try to argue with me on this. It's like, okay, what's your background? Oh, you live at your mom's house. Cool. And you make $20,000 a year, and you're new to this. Cool. And you want to argue with me. Probably it's not going to go well for you, because I'm just playing probabilities here. And I've got 25 years experience understanding what the probabilities are, and you're brand new to this saying I'm wrong on all this. Cool. Let's just see how it plays out. We don't have to know today who's right or wrong. We will know in the next year. At least by the next 18 months, we'll have a really clear idea. Was Rain way wrong on his prediction? Or was he way right? Oh my gosh, he said the probabilities were really good that it would go well, and it did go well. How did he know? So they're just asking the wrong questions, right? So I remember when I was new to real estate investing, and I went to some investment workshops, and the guy teaching was worth $200 effing million. You know what I didn't do? I didn't get in there and try to argue with him on any point about why he was wrong on anything. What I did do was offer to buy him lunch and spend all the time around him I could, and just soak up what the hell he knew, because I thought, man, if I could just learn some of what he understands, then maybe over time I could get to where he is, because where he is exactly where I want to be. Some people don't get that. They want to make their voice heard, and they want to sound important. They want to sound like they know what they're talking about, and they're just so certain. So their emotions tell them they're right on things, and they just want to argue with people. Cool. Go argue somewhere else. We're a facts and logic channel. Like, we're just looking at probabilities, and you might disagree with me on what the probabilities are. Randy and I probably don't assign exactly the same probabilities to different things. Cool. What I do like about Randy, though, is his instinct. So few people have the instincts to be able to buy when things are low. They just don't. Now, you can reprogram those, but Randy somehow always had those instincts. Why? Because he bought Pokemon when everyone was telling him he was stupid and crazy. and yet he was buying lows, and then he sold highs. And he rolled that into Tesla when everyone's like, Tesla can't go up anymore from here. It's ridiculously overpriced. It's not going to do good from here. You're stupid. It's terrible. And then it went like 7x that year, which stocks never, ever do. What does that tell you about Randy's instincts? Pretty dang good. And he didn't have to rewire to this. Somehow he already understood it. That's rare. I don't run into many people like that.
I will not be denied.
Yeah, right. So, like, look, most people aren't wired that way. They need market confirmation from everyone else telling them it's a safe time to buy, which is actually the scariest time to buy. And they need market confirmation from everyone else saying, oh, yeah, it is going to go to zero. And then they sell at lows. And then they see a turnaround and like, dang, I knew I should have just held it longer. Well, yeah, but you had to listen to the 90% of people who get it wrong every time to confirm that you were doing it right, so that you don't have to own your own responsibility. You could say, well, they told me. Cool. That's why 90% of people do mediocre to very poor in crypto. 90%. Those numbers are staggeringly bad. If you're doing the things the same as 90% of what the crypto space tells you to do, realize you're doing it wrong, and you're not going to end up in the top 5% that makes incredible money in this.
We've had a great several years, I think a great decade. And again, the fundamentals for VeVe are there. Obviously, I'm back to bull mode here. Again, as long as the thesis of the company doesn't change, as long as they can keep getting these licenses, as long as they keep raising money, well, not raising money, as they can keep getting money off all these drops, which they do exceedingly well. And again, what happens to the IP that's with all these other companies that go under? Where are they going to go? Clearly, they're interested in Web3. Clearly, they're interested in that recurring revenue. They just made the wrong choice. They made the wrong choice to go on other platforms, and now they know. And I think VeVe is actually in a really good position in this bear market, because if somebody wants to go in, like a major company, let's say like Hello Kitty, just, they were on Recur. They see how other platforms can spend tens of millions of dollars and it still not work out. It's going to be a bloodbath if they try to do it themselves and it doesn't work out. Again, as Rain said, the CEO does not want to get fired, because again, they could do that. They can be voted out. They could lose their board seats. If I were any other company, I would want to not only strike a deal with VeVe, but I would want to pay so that I get on there first. Because again, if every day you're not on VeVe, you're missing out on that secondary revenue. And it might be worth to pay VeVe an extra $5,000 or $10,000 to just come first, and then make whatever up on the drop, and then you have revenue literally for the rest of the life. Yeah.
I know if I was a big enough name, right, I would love to be able to, make a deal with VeVe and release a Rain collectible that then every time it resold, say I got 6%. Holy shiz. That'd be amazing. It'd be great. And so some licensors are coming around to this. They're like, holy cow. And we did this deal with Recur. We did this deal with whatever, and it didn't come together. And crap, those people who partner with VeVe, they're getting recurring revenue every single day. That's crazy. All right, let's swallow our pride into a deal with VeVe. We should have went to that first. We knew it, but Recur sold us.
Right.
Oh, well.
So there is one thing I do want to go over. Logon says the fundamentals completely changed. OMI is no longer the ecosystem of VeVe. So again, there are many people that do not live and breathe the space like me and Rain do. But Dapper Labs, who's has the Flow token, they have NFL All Day, they have this Flow ecosystem. They just paid a $4 million settlement with the SEC because they were in a closed ecosystem. VeVe and Ecomi, on the other hand, are using a third-party stacker to use their OMI to NFT platform, that OMI to NFT utility. So, and they're doing that not on VeVe, they're doing it on Stacker so that they can avoid that particular case that Dapper just paid. Now, if you want to go in and say like, hey, VeVe, I'll give you $10 million so you can pay this lawsuit and then wind up doing this anyway, I don't even think they take that from you, just because that's not worth it. That's not worth the headache. That's not worth the court cases. But that's why OMI is not really used in the VeVe ecosystem, because it can't be. If it is, they'd be that closed ecosystem. They would have to go and fight the SEC, which they do not want to do. Anything to add to that?
Yeah. So you ever been in the car with a backseat driver?
Yes.
That's a lot of what goes on. What the hell? They said it was going to be this way and they changed direction. It's like they changed direction because they had this big old behemoth in their way called the US SEC, which came out with a competitor to VeVe and attacked them. And it's like, oh, if I continue down this road, I'm going to run right into the US SEC too. Let me change direction. Then there's people like, oh my gosh, they lied to me. They changed directions. I'm out. I'm selling. And they don't have the wisdom to understand, oh, that was a smart move. Oh gosh, I'm glad that they're on top of things and they saw that coming and they changed directions. That was really quite smart of them. Now, is it fair that the SEC did that? I don't know. Fair. It's reality that happened. I don't know that it's fair. It's just reality. And in life, you deal with reality. Fairness, life is not fair. No, I don't think it's fair that that happened to Flow. But VeVe saw that happen to Flow and was like, let's not run into that too. Smart.
Preach. I've had people say OMI is worthless when I think the market cap's like $130 million. I don't know when anyone else had made anything that was worth in the 9 figures, but
Yeah.
And that can change on a dime as well.
AR Blues can give us his pedigree, right? I'm sure when he tells us about his background, he's probably got like decades of investment experience and business analysis and stuff. So that then we can be like, oh yeah, we should probably listen to AYR Blues. I mean, he's so smart. He probably needs to create a YouTube channel and he needs to give in-depth analysis on all these projects. You know, clearly he's not a believer in OMI, but I'm sure he's got in-depth analysis on 20 different crypto projects that are worth investing, and he'd be able to make the case and win you all over to that. Otherwise, it might seem that you're just a fudder and you're not making an articulate case at all, and you're just like, OMI is worthless. And that would show low intelligence. I don't want to assume low intelligence in you. I want to assume that you have high intelligence and you're just making a weak case.
So people have been asking for like this, not like a fudder space, but for this type of debate for a while. Is there anyone that you do like that does make compelling arguments that I had not made today? Any arguments that you think we should go over?
No. So what's funny is we had debated like bringing on an actual fudder, and it's like most of the arguments are like the team lied. It's like, can you tell us when they lied? Well, they said that they were going to burn things. You're right, they did. Lie means that they knowingly told something that they knew wouldn't be true. That's different from they had to change directions because the SEC was going after things. Oh my gosh, they lied. And like OMI was supposed to be on the app and you could buy things with OMI. You're right. They changed directions again. But why are you calling that a lie? Can't you make an articulate case without assuming bad intentions? Because just assuming bad intentions means that you're emotional about this. Why are you so emotional about this? We're not in this space to be emotional. And if you're emotional, then your logic and reason is going out the window, and we can't even have a debate because you're just emotional about this. You're going to disregard any contrary opinion of what you're saying because you bought into the other side emotionally and you just disregard all the facts. Cool. We can't have an argument with you because then it just thing because you're not making articulate arguments on why you're concerned that OMI won't do better this coming bull run than they did the previous one. Cool, make that case. I've seen a few arguments now and again that I'm like, hey, that's valid. Okay, cool. Like one of the arguments is, in general, most altcoins do their very best the first cycle and they don't return those previous all-time highs their second cycle. Okay, that's a valid argument. But what are the variables that are not being included? That, oh, well, most crypto projects are on their way to dying after their first bull run because they don't really get a business off the ground that is establishing value. But VeVe has created a business that has created a community and they're selling these collectibles. They actually have revenues, which 100% of those projects that fail, that do worse their second time, they don't have any incoming revenues. And so out of the ones that do have incoming revenues in the crypto space, which is maybe 1% of crypto projects, most all of those do well. They're even better their second bull run than they did the previous one. So OMI falls into that, but that's not a bad argument. That's a valid concern. They just didn't know about the extra variable that makes the difference here.
Speaking of variables, Wes saying VeVe scrap buying VeVe versus land using OMI. For some reason, Moon Boys don't even care. Again, in case nobody has explained this to you, Wes, previously it had been declared by the SEC that using a token specifically for land buying would render you a security. And that is something that VeVe has, again, tried to avoid because you do not want to have a $125 million lawsuit like XRP did. So again, if nobody has told you, we're telling you now. Am I missing any info from that, Ray?
No. And yes, is the SEC being fair about this? I don't even think they're trying to be fair. In fact, in their lawsuit in the state of Utah, the judge deemed that they were being arbitrary and capricious, and in some cases malicious. I don't think the US SEC is trying to be fair. And it's kind of like you have a regulator that has a machine gun that is firing at all the crypto projects that will open up to become a big enough target to be fired at. So you kind of got to stay out of their lane of fire until hopefully the regulators get brought into control, because the regulator's job is to be very clear on what the rules are and be even-handed. And they've not shown that the past 4 years, which is quite a surprise. I was quite excited when Gary Gensler was put in that position. But the Gary Gensler before being in that position is a very different man than the Gary Gensler that has been at the US SEC. And he makes very different arguments from the arguments he was making before he was there. So somebody's telling him what arguments they want him to make and how they want him to be very anti-crypto. Could be Elizabeth Warren, could be the anti-crypto army, could be them and then some other people. I don't say, I know. But he has been not fair with crypto. He has not been transparent on what the rules are. And they have been regulating by enforcement, which is a scary, scary place for businesses to be. And that breeds corruption. It's kind of like suggesting you donate heavily to our party or we're going to come after you. I mean, Sam Bankman-Fried picked up on that. Hey, you can be as corrupt as you want. Just donate heavily to the party behind Gary Gensler and you'll be fine. Regulators will meet with you. They will help you. They will do everything for you. As long as you're giving $100 million or whatever the number is to some Democrats and then use the backdoor channel to give to half the Republican Party, you're as protected as can be. And then, the stuff that they were actually doing was quite shady, and that came out. And then the politicians were like, no, we're not going to protect you from that. But he had significant protection from the US SEC prior to all that shady stuff coming out. Why? Well, because he was paying the mafia, also known as the Democrat Party.
Damn. Shade.
Yeah. I wish it wasn't that way. And not all Democrats are bad. Joe Biden, you get a return on investment. Like, that's become pretty obvious through donating whatever to him. Like you get an ROI there. You get protection. Should it be that way? No. Has he been prosecuted for that? No. The powers that be have helped hide that, but it's become pretty clear over the past 3 or 4 years. That's how he's always operated. So is it any different in his administration? Doesn't seem to be. I mean, why did Sam Bankman-Fried get so much political protection? Well, he was given like $100 million to a certain party and then a bunch to the other party too. So of course that bought him protection. Should it be that way? No. Do I wish they would clean? Does Washington want to clean that up? No. At least half the Republicans don't want that cleaned up, and most Democrats don't want that cleaned up. So how are you going to clean it up?
Drain the swamp. Get outside. Yeah.
The problem when you go to drain the swamp is all the alligators come out, and you find out a bunch of the alligators have your party's name on it too.
Yeah, that's rough. That's I think that's where I think Trump has that advantage, just because outside of being president, really never held elected office, was that outsider, was that business owner, and I think that's something that really helps him.
I think he learned. I thought he would actually go into office, and I thought he would be part of the swamp. I really did. But I was like, we'll see. I mean, if he comes out, he's going to find out a bunch of the swamp creatures have Republican written all over. And I'll know who the corrupt ones are by who is trying to take him out within his own party if he does go to drain the swamp. That's what I saw from him. I was quite surprised. I did not think he would do that. He'd been a lifelong Democrat. I thought he changed to become a Republican just to get elected. I thought he was just saying the right things just to get elected. So when he went in there to actually clean up the corruption there, I was shocked. I was like, oh my gosh. I was further shocked by how many Republicans went after him. And I was like, well, I know who are the corrupt Republicans because they don't want the swamp drained. Those ones. The ones who supported him, they were badasses. I was like, those guys, badasses.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see eventually in the debates, most likely who's going to win. I mean, you have somebody debating that nobody's ever cast a single vote for, who was taken out of the primaries pretty early last season by Tulsi Gabbard. And then you have somebody who was a sitting president. So I think that'll show people. But bringing it back to the OMI real quick before we head out of here, saying Abdullah Arif says, so many people are leaving VeVe daily. What are some ways VeVe can recover from this since they are struggling to onboard new users and struggling to maintain current user base? They do have signups. I don't know if that's every day, but they do have signups in the hundreds each month. How many people after they sign up, are they continuously buying every day? Probably not too many. How many are buying, a few times a quarter? Probably most of them. Oh, hang on. Super chat over here. Beer Money. Yo, Rain. Yo, what up, Maxwell? How's it going, fam?
What's up, Maxwell?
But New Year's, it's tricky because a lot of them are just like one-time things. Like if I were to go in and ask David for, let's just say like $5,000 and say, I guarantee you a couple hundred new users. I would be able to go to any meme coin community. You can pick whichever meme coin community it is that has hundreds, maybe 1,000 or so users. I would say all you need to do is open up, download the VeVe app, and buy one collectible for $1. Comics dollar bin, they're there. And then you will be put into a raffle to get $500 worth of, your favorite meme coin. And we could have like 10 different spots. So there are 10 different people that'll get that. Every single one of those people and their sister will download the app and spend $1 to put in just to get that chance at $500. Now that's just a one-time thing. Like I can replicate that, but I would have to get $5,000 each month, to do that. And that's essentially paying a salary. As far as newer stuff, in reality, I don't think they really need to do a ton of marketing. All they could do is they could put out a referral code where if people buy gems from the web app and then they spend those in the store, you can get like 2 or 3% of that. And then again, that greater bull market taking hold, that'll just bring new people in without them even trying. What about you, Rain? Any ideas?
Well, what's funny is you go through these investment cycles, and what I love about crypto versus almost everything else is how short the cycle is. It's only 4 years. Now, because you have charts to look at and the price is so volatile every single day, creates a lot of activity that people watch. And so it seems like so much has happened over the 4 years that it feels like 2 decades passed when it's really only 4 years. And so people get burnt out emotionally, though it's really only 4 years. It's not very long to wait. That cycle is really, really short. But you know what has cycles? Every other investment thing. Pokemon cards have cycles. Real estate, homes have cycles. Commercial real estate has cycles. Those cycles are much, much, much longer. So 4 years isn't very long to wait. So we have a massive run. Guess what? VeVe increased massively in the number of users. And then it's just mostly been a continuous fall off with the new people coming in, but the fall off being greater than the new people coming in. And that's been going on for like 2 years. What will turn that around? Well, the next cycle going, the next bull run will then bring in a massive wave of users, which will exceed the previous highs by a lot. And then guess what will happen for the next 2 or 3 years? Fall off. And then it'll probably happen again. And that's just how the cycles go. So it's like, what do they need to turn that around? Nothing. Just keep doing what they're doing. Keep lining up amazing IP. And the wave that is coming is going to solve that for them. They don't need to run out and spend massive marketing dollars.
Preach. Anything else you want to go over before we bounce and talk off camera a bit?
Nope.
All right, everyone.
If you haven't noticed already, this wave is coming. And you're seeing some major crypto influencers saying the same thing. Cool. They get it, right? Like they've been through this. And you can see it primarily leading up with Bitcoin, which is what will bring it, right? If you've been following my Wednesday videos with Paul, who looks at the charts, he's looking at Bitcoin and he's like, oh my gosh, what is coming for crypto is big. He's right on that. And it's going to be big. Now, I can't tell you, is the blow off top of the bull run going to be 2 months from now or 12 months from now? I don't know. But when it comes, that wave is going to be massive. And projects like Ecomi, I think you're going to do exceptionally well in that environment.
And the night is darkest just before the dawn. Tough times never last. Tough people tend to. When you have something like lack of exchanges as a main concern, that's not going to last forever. Like, you're going to have a time where we get some exchanges. Now, are you guaranteed Coinbase and Binance right away? No, probably not. Probably not for a while. But are you guaranteed some other exchanges once they roll out some actual utility? Probably. And again, once you get that exchanges and more liquidity, you're going to have people, you're going to have traders come in and be like, hey, I can trade this. They're not going to care what it is. They're not going to care about the vicissitudes of yesterday. They're just going to care that they can make money on it. But again, obviously, it's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Vil says Randy will be either super right about OMI or completely wrong. Yeah, fair point. Fair point. Everyone say hello to say goodbye to Dashi. Goodbye, Dashi. And come back on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with me, Crypto Rain, and our other co-host, Dr. Stuff. We'll talk about OMI is my homie and why. This was fun, Rain. We'll do it again.
All right. We'll see y'all.
Meow, meow, meow. Meow, meow, Randy. I had to